Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are reading chapter 84, 85, and 86 of The Life of Pi. All the other chapters are in various videos on the channel, so do check them out. Chapter 84. I was on the tarpaulin, wrapped in a blanket, sleeping and dreaming and awakening and daydreaming and generally passing the time. There was a steady breeze, and from time to time spray was blown off the crest of a wave and wet the boat. Richard Parker had disappeared under the tarp. He liked neither getting wet nor the ups and downs of the boat, but the sky was blue and the air was warm and the sea was regular in its motion. I awoke because there was a blast. I opened my eyes and saw water in the sky. It crashed down on me. I looked up again. Cloudless blue sky. Then there was another blast to my left. Not as powerful as the first. Richard Parker growled fiercely. More water crashed against me. It had an unpleasant smell. I looked over the edge of the boat, and the first thing I saw was a large black object floating in the water. It took me a few seconds to understand what it was. An arching wrinkle in its edge around its edge was my cue. It was an eye. It was a whale. Its eye, the size of my head, was looking directly at me. Richard Parker came up from beneath the tarpaulin. He hissed. I sensed from a slight change in the glint of the whale's eye that it was now looking at Richard Parker. It gazed for 30 seconds or so before gently sinking under. I worried that it might strike us with its tail, but it went straight down and vanished in the dark blue. Its tail was a huge, fainting round bracket. I believe it was a whale looking for a mate. It must have decided that my size wouldn't do, and besides, I already seemed to have a mate. We saw a number of whales, but none so close up as the first one. I would be alerted to their presence by their spouting. They would emerge a short distance away, sometimes 3 or 4 of them, a short-lived archipelago of volcanic islands. These gentle behemoths always lifted my spirit. I was convinced that they understood my condition, that at the sight of me, one of them exclaimed, "Oh, it's that castaway with the pussycat Pampu who was telling me about. Poor boy. Hope he has enough plankton. I must tell Mampu and Tompu and Stimpu about him. I wonder if there isn't a ship around that I could alert. His mother would be very happy to see him again. Goodbye, my boy. I'll try to help. My name is Pimpu." And so, through the grapevine, every whale of the Pacific Ocean knew of me, and I would have been saved long ago if Pimpu hadn't sought help from a Japanese ship whose dastardly crew harpooned her, the same fate as befell Lampu at the hands of a Norwegian ship. The hunting of whales is a heinous crime. Dolphins were fairly regular visitors. One group stayed with us a whole day and night. They were very gay. Their plunging and turning and racing just beneath the hull seemed to have no purpose other than sporting fun. I tried to catch one, but none came close to the gaff, and even if one had, they were too fast and too big. I gave up and just watched them. I saw 6 birds in all. I took each one to be an angel announcing nearby land, but these were seafaring birds that could span the Pacific with hardly a flutter of the wings. I watched them with awe and envy and self-pity. Twice I saw an albatross. Each flew by high in the air without taking any notice of us. I stared with my mouth open. There was something supernatural and incomprehensible. Another time, a short distance from the boat, 2 Wilson's petrels skimmed by, feet skipping on the water. They too took no notice of us and left me similarly amazed. We at last attracted the attention of a short-tailed shearwater. It circled above us, eventually dropping down. It kicked out its legs and turned its wings and alighted in the water, floating as light as a cork. It eyed me with curiosity. I quickly baited a hook with a bit of flying fish and threw the line in its way. I put no weights on the line and had difficulty getting it close to the bird. On my 3rd try, the bird paddled up to the sinking bait and plunged its head underwater to get at it. My heart pounded with excitement. I did not pull on the line for some seconds, and when I did, the bird merely squawked and regurgitated what it had swallowed. Before I could try again, it unfolded its wings and pulled itself up into the air. Within 2 or 3 beatings of its wings, it was on its way. I had better luck with the masked booby. It appeared out of nowhere, gliding toward us, wings spanning over 3 feet. It landed on the gunwale within hand's reach of me. Its round eyes took me in, the expression puzzled and serious. It was a large bird with a pure white, snowy white body and wings that were jet black. At their tips and rear edges, its big bulbous head had a very pointed orange-yellow beak and the red eyes behind the black mask made it look like a thief who had a very long night. Only the oversized brown webbed feet left something to be desired in their design. The bird was fearless. It spent several minutes tweaking its feathers with its beak, exposing soft down. When it was finished, it looked up and everything fell into place, and it showed itself for what it was, a smooth, beautiful, aerodynamic airship. When I offered it a piece of Dorado, it picked it out of my hand, jabbing the palm. I broke its neck by leveraging its head backward, one hand pushing up the beak, the other holding the neck. The feathers were so well attached that when I started pulling them out, the skin came off. I was not plucking the bird, I was tearing it apart. It was light enough as it was, a volume with no weight. I took the knife and skinned it instead. For its size, there was a disappointing amount of flesh, only a little on its chest. It had a more chewy texture than Dorado flesh, but I didn't find there was much of a difference in taste. In its stomach, instead of morsels of Dorado, besides a morsel of Dorado I had just given it, I found 3 small fish. After rinsing them of digestive juices, I ate them. I ate the bird's heart, liver, and lungs. I swallowed its eyes and tongue with a gulp of water. I crushed its head and picked out its small brain. I ate the webbings of its feet. The rest of the bird was skin, bone, and feathers. I dropped it beyond the edge of the top for Richard Parker, who hadn't seen the bird arrive. The orange paw reached out. Days later, feathers and down were still floating out from his den and being blown out to sea. Those that landed in the water were swallowed by fish. None of the birds ever announced land. Chapter 85. Once there was lightning. The sky was so black, day looked like night. The downpour was heavy. I heard thunder far away. I thought it would stay at that, but a wind came up, throwing the rain this way and that. Right after, a white splinter came crashing down from the sky, puncturing the water. It was some distance from the lifeboat, but the effect was perfectly visible. The water was shot through with what looked like white roots. Briefly, a great celestial tree stood in the ocean. I had never imagined such a thing possible. Lightning striking the sea. The clap of thunder was tremendous. The flash of lightning was incredibly vivid. I turned to Richard Parker and said, "Look, Richard Parker, a bolt of lightning." I saw how he felt about it. He was flat on the floor of the boat, limbs splayed and visibly trembling. The effect on me was completely the opposite. It was something to pull me out of my limited mortal ways and thrust me into a state of exalted wonder. Suddenly a bolt struck much closer. Perhaps it was meant for us. We had just fallen off the crest of a swell and was sinking down its back when its top was hit. There was an explosion of hot air and hot water. For 2, perhaps 3 seconds, a gigantic, blinding white shard of glass from a broken cosmic window danced in the sky, insubstantial yet overwhelmingly powerful. 10,000 trumpets and 20,000 drums could not have made as much noise as that bolt of lightning. It was positively deafening. The sea turned white and all color disappeared. Everything was either pure white light or pure black shadow. The light did not seem to illuminate so much as to penetrate. As quickly as it had appeared, the bolt vanished. The spray of hot water had not finished landing upon us, and already it was gone. The punishing swell returned to black and rolled on indifferently. I was dazed. Thunder struck, nearly in the true sense of the word, but not afraid. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the compassionate, the merciful, ruler of the day of judgment, I muttered. To Richard Parker I shouted, "Stop your trembling! This is a miracle! This is an outbreak of divinity! This is... I could not finish what it was. This thing so vast and fantastic. I was breathless and wordless. I lay back on the tarpaulin, arms and legs spread wide. The rain chilled me to the bone, but I was smiling. I remember that close encounter with electrocution and third-degree burns as one of the few times during my ordeal when I felt genuine happiness. At moments of wonder, it is easy to avoid small thinking, to entertain thoughts that span the universe, that capture both thunder and tinkle, thick and thin, the near and the far. Chapter 86. Richard Parker! A ship! I had the pleasure of shouting that once. I was overwhelmed with happiness. All hurt and frustration fell away, and I positively blazed with joy. "We've made it! We're saved! Do you understand, Richard Parker? We are saved! Ha ha ha!" I tried to control my excitement. What if the ship passed too far away to see us? Should I launch a rocket flare? Nonsense. It's coming right toward us, Richard Parker. Oh, I thank you, Lord Ganesha. Blessed be you in all your manifestations, Allah Brahman. It couldn't miss us. Can there be any happiness greater than the happiness of salvation? The answer, believe me, is no. I got to my feet the first time in a long time I had made such an effort. Can you believe it, Richard Parker? People, food, a bed, life is ours once again. Oh, what bliss! The ship came closer still. It looked like an oil tanker. The shape of its bow was becoming very distinct. Salvation wore a robe of black metal with white trim. And what if... I did not say the words. But might there not be a chance that Father and Mother and Ravi were still alive? The Simpson had had a number of lifeboats. Perhaps they had reached Canada weeks ago and were anxiously waiting for news from me. Perhaps I was the only person from the wreck unaccounted for. My God, oil tankers are big! It was a mountain creeping up on us. Perhaps they're already in Winnipeg. I wonder what our house looks like. Do you suppose, Richard Parker, that Canadian houses have inner courtyards in the traditional Tamil style? Probably not. I suppose they would fill up with snow in winter. Pity. There's no peace like the peace of an inner courtyard on a sunny day. I wonder what spices grow in Manitoba. The ship was very close. The crew better be stopping short or turning sharply soon. Yes, what spices? Oh my God! I realized with horror that the tanker was not simply coming our way. It was, in fact, bearing down on us. The bow was a vast wall of metal that was getting wider every second. A huge wave girdling it was advancing toward us relentlessly. Richard Parker finally sensed the looming juggernaut. He turned and went, woof, woof. But not dog-like, it was tiger-like, powerful, scary, and utterly suited to the situation. Richard Parker is going to run us over. What are we going to do? Quick, a flare. No, must row, or in oarlock there. The bow wave pushed us up. Richard Parker crouched and the hairs on him stood up. The lifeboat slid off the bow wave and missed the tanker by less than 2 feet. The ship slid by for what seemed like a mile of high black canyon wall, a mile of castle fortification with not a single sentinel to notice us languishing in the moat. I fired off a rocket flare, but I aimed it poorly. Instead of surging over the bulwark and exploding in the captain's face, it ricocheted off the ship's side and went straight into the Pacific, where it died with a hiss. I blew on my whistle with all my might. I shouted at the top of my lungs, all to no avail. Its engines rumbling loudly and its propellers chopping explosively underwater, the ship churned past us and left us bouncing and bobbing in its frothy wake. After so many weeks of natural sounds, these mechanical noises were strange and awesome and stunned me into silence. In less than 20 minutes, a ship of 300,000 tons became a speck on the horizon. When I turned away, Richard Parker was still looking in its direction. After a few seconds, he turned away too, and our gazes briefly met. My eyes expressed longing, hurt, anguish, and loneliness. All he was aware of was that something stressful and momentous had happened, something beyond the outer limits of his understanding. He did not see that it was salvation, barely missed. He only saw that the alpha here, this odd, unpredictable tiger, had become very excited. He settled down to another nap. His sole comment on the event was a cranky meow. "I love you!" The words burst out, pure and unfettered, infinite. The feeling flooded in my chest. Truly, I do. I love you, Richard Parker. If I didn't have you now, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I would have made it. No, I wouldn't. I would die of hopelessness. Don't give up, Richard Parker. Don't give up. I will get you to land. I promise. I promise. Okay, that's chapter 86. Stay tuned for number 87.